bit different than mine because I started using Adobe XD.
What do you think of it?
I like the simplicity of it. It's like, it's not as, you can't do as many things as you could with like Illustrator, but it's like clearer than Photoshop. It's a little simpler than Illustrator. Yeah, I can do them you can just kind of shape like coding. I like it.
Okay.
We have this repeater tool, so it's easy to repeat things.
So it's a pretty easy learning curve?
Yeah, I think so.
Is it vector based?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can make it any size, you can resize it.
I've heard a lot of complaints about it, but
the only issue I had is like with resizing images. So
the complaints I've heard were it's not as good as Sketch, and
I
it's
haven't used Sketch, but
yeah.
It seems it's better than Photoshop.
And the thing is, it's part of the Adobe Creative Suite, so you get it for the cost of your
cost of everything.
But isn't it still in beta?
Mm-hmm.
And we were going to install it on the computers in the labs, but they wouldn't do it because it's still in beta.
I don't understand that they pretty much automatically update. I don't get that.
I know.
Okay, well,
I still like it compared to like finding something random online.
Mm-hmm.
Then we made it this
fancy schmancy.
It looks
so I
great.
didn't use kind of the same colors, but I wanted something like, okay, like I was going to scroll down. I like hero images. So
I think your logo is a little hard to see.
I mean, I do have a version where you're...
Well, it's going to be more vibrant online anyway.
Well, even you'll be closer, like, but you'll be closer.
Where is
it? It actually.
It's a little small too.
Yeah. Well, she could do it, in her set in text there.
Well, it would be like this. Or like, it would full the screen.
That's true. Right.
This would be the whole screen.
Right. Right.
It would probably be wider. I just drag the window. It would be a lot wider.
Right.
But yeah, it just looks small this way. It could be bigger. I think what I noticed when I designed is I make things really big. Like the menu items for some reason. I just designed big in my head. When I look at websites, they're not as funky. So I guess I was trying to count that.
Yeah.
When I do that. And that's all.
And so what motivated you to redo it?
I didn't like what I had before. I also started using XD, so it felt a lot easier. It had better sizes, and it was like sharper than Photoshop. I think I just wasn't comfortable when I was doing Photoshop. So then I just wanted to do more things for my portfolio. And I was having fun doing it.
And you talked about your project too, but can you refresh the memory? I can't remember what your ideas were, and have you made any progress with that?
So I haven't made any progress. It's still in the science center. Basically, the kids or whoever would walk in front of this big life-size monitor.
Oh yeah.
It would look like they're in an X-ray.
Okay. Okay.
That's super realistic.
Okay.
Now, my original idea was that it would take a picture of him, select different parts of the body. That's kind of where I was going, but I don't know how, if we're supposed to incorporate it with other people, so I can do that for other people, and their cells, like put on a display or something. I don't know how to make it like collective data with other people.
Well, I think, hold on a second. When you say we're supposed to, it's fairly open-ended, but there are some objectives. I'm going to go back to the original assignment. So once you release the screens, hold on. Oh, there's James Taylor.
Hello.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. You guys, Donna, could you put me up?
Oh. Looks like someone upstairs.
So this is responding to Donna's question. Why is there a weird hose with someone?
It has to be red with the stripe.
Where am I? Oh, wrong one. Shoot, sorry, I'm being kind of slow at this. Assignments. Project 2. So I'm just going back to this to answer your question. The objective is to design a computer game interactive activity that teaches kids some topic concept related to a theme in a science center or children's museum. So right there has to be some kind of a learning objective. What do you want them to learn from this? I mean, it's like that there are bones inside of your body. That doesn't seem like a real, there has to be something more educational about that experience instead of like a special effect, just to keep that in mind.
Yeah, well, I said along with it, when it takes a picture of them. Like the skeleton is what draws them in.
Right.
But then what they're actually learning is they get to select different parts of the body so it's more interactive, I guess.
So it's an anatomy.
Anatomy, yeah, an anatomy game, like
okay.
An anatomy activity.
Okay.
It's an interactive activity.
Target audience is kids age 6 to 12, able to read at the first grade level, but it should be fun for an adult to play. You'll begin by defining your topic and setting. What will you try to teach? Where will this exhibit be housed? How will your participants interact with the exhibit? Will they use a mouse, keyboard, touch sensor, or will there be physical controls integrated like sensors? Background research, more than likely this topic has been taught in different ways in an exhibit setting and outside of an exhibit setting. How is it taught? How can interactive media enhance the teaching of this topic? So these are some of the questions that your proposal should address. And like this is a little bit open-ended in terms of how you present your ideas. And remember when I showed the garden project, like I kind of had to take clip art of kids and kind of superimpose it together with like existing pictures I found. So whatever you can use to help communicate your ideas, whether it's sketches, if it's easier for you to draw, by all means use that. But you need to be communicating all of these, answering these questions and communicating these key things right here. Do you guys have any questions about this? Does anybody else want to talk about work in progress? I know James has some stuff.
I just wanted to throw, I think I changed mine a little bit.
Okay, all right. So we have, you got all you guys. Okay. Do you need to show anything, or should we just record the discussion?
What do you?
Go to James's stuff?
Yeah, let's look at James's stuff.
Okay. Yeah. All right, let me release the screen so you can drive here. Okay. I think we can capture the sound if you talk loud enough. Oh, thanks, Anama.
So this is all Magic House stuff. So this is a few little pictures. This one right here is it's a spot. But anyway, this is a circuit board that you can build out of all the circuits that you need. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. I've seen this in multiple children's museums, and like there's a siren on it, and then there's like an alarm or whatever. And if you connect these all right, they'll go off. So they give you this little printout of what you need to do to build it, and then you can really build it in any direction that you want. I don't know how interactive that is. It's not like a screen, but you could go something with it with an interactive look. With that, that's my son trying to balance himself on what we're doing. But that is, these are all pieces of paper and all kinds of rope and stuff like that. And you build like a parachute, you shove it in that pipe right there, and you see if you can shoot it up real high. Again, I don't know if you want a screen to try and design your paper plane, fly, or whatever. It's an idea. This is what I've been telling you guys about. That's the, I'll go a little bit forward. This is what you do. You draw on that little piece of paper there, and you see the QR codes in all four corners. And that one right there is the truck. See, some kid drew on the truck. You put it in there, and you push that nice big yellow button right there. Super easy. And it does one blue light that scans across it. And goes in there, it's in there. And then it goes in here, and some UFO drops it in on either the road or these houses or the spaceships. It's all moving and all flying on the right screen. On the left screen is the helicopter's view that keeps flying around to give you a more in-depth 3D view. And like I said, you can touch everything on that wall that has sensors on it. The only thing that I don't like about it is it's all projected. So when you go out there and start touching the screen, your shadow's on it. So it's not like a giant touchscreen, iPad, glass, whatever. So those cables right there, that you can't really tell from the picture, that's markers, glue, scissors, and everything that you need to make it. And those little plants are little lights on the cable. Just kind of, that's all the kids doing their artwork. And then that is the 3D model. So after you put it on the wall, you can bring your same picture over, do the same thing, put it right there, and press the big yellow button, and it prints on that printer. And when it comes out, it has everything you need to cut it to make those things on the wall. And then you just use the glue sticks and glue them together. It's super cool. I mean, I don't know. So those are all the trays. That's houses, that's cars, that's a truck, that's a bus, and a spaceship. I mean, that is just...
Who did this?
You keep asking me there.
I do?
Launchpad. That's it. I finally remember.
Launchpad.
Yeah, they have their logo on the back of each of those
Okay.
cars and stuff.
James, what was I going to say? Well, I think this is interesting, especially the last one where you are, there's, because this is an interactive media class and we're talking about, primarily screen-based experiences. I think that last example is really interesting because it takes advantage of the fact that there's a group of kids coming and going there, and they're building this composition, this thing on the screen there, that's been built by. There's a sort of spontaneity to it because you don't know what's going to be there, but it's all based on the visitors that come and go. So it really takes advantage of this group collaborative setting, but it allows an individual to do something. There's not a super specific learning objective there, but,
you could spin it.
Yeah.
You could say, this is about hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, right. You're right. So,
I guess and back to your community meeting, there's a guy that works there that does a Superman card every single day.
A what?
A Superman card because it gets reset at night. He paints this card perfectly with the Superman emblem, and it's always driving through. I just think it's pretty cool. So you're right, it stays all day, whatever you do. And then the last thing I'll say too is that monsters attack that screen, and you go and push the screen, and all your spaceships shoot at it. And then animatedly blow them up. That's not blow.
That's like a Easter egg there.
Oh yeah, it took us a while. We never knew that, and it doesn't say that anymore. You have to learn that now.
Right, that's the delight of the
mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's a good point.
And you guys were talking about putting out instructions. I swear to you, until I saw this picture just now, I had no idea those instructions were on the wall. I have gone in there and done it every single time without reading a single bit of instructions.
Well, to me, that's pretty impressive.
Well, there is a lady in there. There's always a worker in there that's standing by to help. Not just that, because kids just leave their trash in there, so they got to clean it up.
Constantly.
This is Dino Train is in town right now, and if you don't watch PBS, everybody does. Dino Train is this show that literally is dinosaurs riding on a train. They could not have combined more elements to fit the line
Yeah.
than Dino Train. So that right there, those are tablets in there. I don't know how, but my daughter pushed the right buttons to go back to the home screen of the tablet. I was like, well, that's not good, ladies and gentlemen. You need to be able to fix that. Because we could have just started doing whatever we wanted on the tablet. And it was hooking to the internet. So that's basically a box that they just sit in there. There's another one. That's why I started working on it. And it's just a box at an angle, and then there's a speaker behind it that fills it out. And it's kind of hard. It's hard plastic, like not a plywood piece, if you will, or any kind of wood. It's just a very, very hard plastic shell. And oh, I'm sorry, that's the one that either my daughter or Brock hacked into. And basically, that's a skeleton thing. You see to the left, there's markers. You can kind of draw your dinosaur, and then on the right, you can kind of draw it too. They don't mesh though. It's not like that QR code before. It's just get down there and start doing dinosaurs. But that screen actually does a whole lot. I don't know if I have a picture of it. You actually feed dinosaurs there. You got to figure out if they're omnivores or carnivores or herbivores. And then you feed them the right meal by sliding it over to them.
And that's something pretty.
He's one about that.
Well, here's the thing: is that this is pretty isolated. It's just one child on one thing.
Well, there's
It's not a
multiple
community.
screens. So that's why there's
Are they
that.
connected?
That's one. There's that table.
But they're not necessarily
There's
connected.
4
to one another.
tables and 4 tablets.
Are they connected to one another?
Yeah.
And so that's not necessarily a community kind of collaborative thing, but
Then the other thing that's in there, the other thing that's in there is this. This is, those are all little screens that have a letter on them, and when you push it, it turns to the dinosaur that letter stands for, and then talks about it through that. That's a speaker above it. And there I kind of try to get a dinosaur's A to Z and take the planning of it. So it's all just one little room where you can do the whole thing. Oh, and there he's feeding the dinosaurs. That's where he got out the app. So it's an app. It's a PBS app, which I'm assuming, I didn't look, but we can probably download at home. Yes. I'm not sure about this. This is the taste test. Drag and drop each food in the tongue to discover its taste. That was a room full of the senses, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's weird. I said, how do I do the taste sense?
well, it's probably just sweet sour.
So I just started looking at the screen. I was trying to figure out what the taste was.
Sweet sour bitter.
And then that's sound memory. So you push the square to match the sound. But my daughter just kept getting clear.
That's what you can reach.
That's exactly what it was. And then this is a super cool hidden room in the Magic House. Again, one that we had took us a while to find. You go in there and you dance, and basically the music changes and projects it into like 70s LSD trip kind of stuff. And you can see that's me doing a selfie as I stand in there up in the top right. Because it senses everything that's in there and it turns it into.
Is it beats? Like thermal?
I don't know. That one's not watched by anybody to ask. You know, it's kind of its own little room.
It's like it's thermal.
And then this one is, if you ever go to the Magic House, there's a big area that's a city or a town, if you will. There's a grocery store and there's a bank. And all of those are their own little interactive rooms. And then outside of it is, like the outside, if you will, there's a pond you can fish in with just fishing poles that have magnets on as fish. But there's also a utility truck and another car that's being worked on by mechanics who need to work on it. It makes all the noisy stuff. That's the utility truck. When you get in it, you see over to the right, that's a non-interactive screen. Basically, it's playing like a looping video of what utility workers do. So you can get in there and drive the truck, and in the back of the truck, you open it up, there's hard hats and orange vests and everything to be a utility. I thought it was pretty neat that they put the little screen in there just to add a little flair to it. I mean, it's better than just, so you know what's going on. Kids would, that place, for some reason, as the only time I can get now and even to be able to sit in there. That mechanical shop, there's always kids in there. You can hear them with the tools and stuff. Super cool.
This is great. Thank you for doing all of this. You know what? Oh, do you have more?
That's it.
this is making me think my lecture that I created a few years ago, where I have a lot of pictures from other museums too, that I should show you and what I thought worked and what didn't work. That might be helpful. But I want to give you guys a chance to talk about your ideas, and I can always do it on Thursday and record myself. So whoever's there, we can talk about it, and it'll stay online so you can go back to it. So what about ideas? I know you have an idea.
Well, right. So originally I wanted to do the music, and I hadn't really formed exactly how that would work, but I think I've got a little bit more, maybe, simplistic. So the idea would be someone would walk into the room and they would record with a big button, just record their name. And then they would pick a song from a list of songs. And then their name would then become, I'm going to have to bring in my iPad to show you how this works. You can synthesize any sound and make it a pitch. So it would take their name and make it all the notes of a song. So it would just be the name of a song, the person's name, creating a song, like notes, and it would change the pitch. And then they'd be able to, at the end of it, email it, an MP3 to themselves.
I don't understand how it does that. No. I mean, so like your name, the way in which, well, what if the kid goes up there and says fart?
You could. It's America. What can I say?
So so it just picks up the pitch, but what about the?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't pick up
So,
the pitch.
right, it will take whatever someone records and then electronically pitch it to real notes.
I
So
see.
when it's high, it'll sound kind of munchkin-y,
Yeah.
and then it's low, it'll sound really low.
And those series of pitches will be based on the song that they chose.
Correct.
I see. Okay. So would there be a visualization involved there?
Yeah, I think so, but I don't know what.
Yeah. And what do you think is how are you going to spin it for the learning part?
Well, I don't know yet. Let me think about that.
Mm-hmm. And is there a community aspect to it?
Well, and that's another thing. It's like, I mean, maybe there's ways to listen to other people's songs.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So like if a family comes in with, brothers and sisters,
Uh-huh.
they'll laugh heartily at, the way their name sounds.
Right.
And the voice of the child will be part of the song.
Right. Okay.
And funny, when you're looking at Snapchat and it changed your voice. Oh my God, my daughter and I have been the funniest Snapchats.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, we've had more fun just listening to us acting stupid and sounding weird.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it takes us back to, when she was little and we both act stupid.
Uh-huh.
So that's it. Mostly laughter and fun is the
objective.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I mean, you could even have two screens of like scrolling, the past, kind of like the idea of these cars and vehicles that have been created that go into this composition. It could be some kind of a soundscape where you can pull the compositions that are, that have been generated throughout the day.
Oh, that'd be fun.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And kind of an interesting, like where you,
thing.
So somehow you might create some visual for your sound, like you create an icon or something like that, and then you see them in a sound. I don't know.
Well, I know that
pull them back up.
I know that creating a visual could be pretty easy to do because I even think about I've got stage lights that are sound. I don't know what the word is. Activated.
Uh-huh.
So I think that would be something that would not be hard to put together.
Right. The icon or whatever represented that composition that you made would have to be distinct enough looking though, so you could differentiate it from the other ones. Visually, yeah.
Good point.
You know what I mean?
Well, and maybe that would just be an algorithm. That just...
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. We got to start drawing this out, so we can start to see how this is, and then you'll kind of figure out some of what problems you're going to encounter. Shalisa and Allie, you guys both have ideas?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Allie.
I was going to do like virtual map, like different cities and house.
Uh-huh.
Like I live in the States and everything, so I think they're all
It's the capitalism.
Yeah, it was just
Thanks, Tim.
so I want to do like a touch screen, like that, and then they can like walk up to it, like touch to the state, and then they'll tell you the capital, and they'll tell you the contact. But then there's gonna be like kids everywhere, so they're all gonna be touching it. That's like
Be a pop-up.
I heard about that too.
Yeah.
Or having it on the ground and you step on it, and you have all the kids come over and step on it. So you want to go like,
Yeah. And I think it's a little dangerous about having it on the wall because those higher states kids aren't going to be able to reach, right? They just got to be able to reach the clear line.
Some rough text.
well,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Like I feel like
The floor I like. The floor is a
I
good idea.
never seen like history, like state stuff like this.
Yeah.
So I haven't been there a lot. But
And then if it is on the floor, then, you know, and you want to go to Missouri, you're going to have to walk over other states.
I think the flow will be tricky too. Also, the relative scale of different states. You know, what's going to work really well to step on Texas, that's easy. But when you get into the tiny New Englander states, it's going to be difficult to select them. I mean,
that's what
you,
I think that's happening. That you have like a tool that you can use to like point
and that would also eliminate some of the chaos. If it was not, if it had to be, if you had to use a specific wand or something, or
Now, the downside with that, of course, is expense for the wand, and then they'll disappear, you know, and that's another problem. But
it's just a basic.
You could break, if you're going to study with law, you could break the United States up into different, unless it was in the Midwest.
although that might be confusing.
Well,
seeing
you have one
segments,
big giant map that's not interactive,
right?
just a map that it just says.
Or it could be interactive in the sense that when you're over in this section of the Southwest, maybe it lights up or something.
it would be great if the system could retain some information. So if you could interact with it in different modes. Like one would just be explore, but you could take the quiz, and then the system knows the really, you know, this state, blah 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 blah. It could be really entertaining, and you know, what questions were missed most throughout the day, or I don't know. There could be. I think a screen with the map could work, and you could position it. Maybe even there's a bench in front of it for little kids who want to get up closer to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For James's daughter. You know, like a little step stool sort of thing. But I think you're right. I really don't see much geography stuff at museums.
And there's constant complaints about how bad we are.
Well, you gotta learn the age too. My daughter's 2.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
She's not
not
going to learn anything about the state.
right. And this is for 6 to 12-year-olds, right? You have to define your target audience. So Google up average height of a 6-year-old, average height of a 12-year-old, and then, you know, that's will help you justify what it is that you're proposing. Like it would be accessible to all these kids, you know?
I feel like maybe for smaller things, they could have like put on a tablet. But then the tablets can just like walk off with it too. So maybe they're just like in the middle of the room. Maybe just do it right there instead of like going up to the wall.
It could be the interactive display could it could switch into different modes. So you could encounter it and it'll say, where have you visited? And then it'll, you know, there could be statistics over on the side. Most commonly visited. No one today has visited this. And then like, let's play. You know, it could do different things. You know, like if you just wanted to have a one-on-one, okay, let's quiz your capitals. And it lights up. But also, you know, you walk away for a while and it's like, where people visited, you know, it could do different things. We have this puzzle at our house and it's the United States map and it has a light sensor on it or something like that. And it's like, Florida, capital, Tallahassee. And we're actually missing Florida right now. So anytime you turn your lights on and off in the basement, like Florida, capital, Tallahassee, the puzzle will talk to you because it doesn't, you know, it doesn't have anything covering that sensor. So I'm mentioning this because your goal is to make something that's beyond what You know, why would I want to play this if I can just do my capital puzzle in my basement? You know, so you have to make it more than that.
On that too, because so I didn't make it to the half. There's another room in the Magic House. If you get down there, this is actually a lot of fun. They have recreated the Oval Office.
Oh yeah.
Have you been down there?
Yes, they do a government unit at school in like 3rd or 4th grade or something, so the kids do a field trip there.
To me, that could have been so freaking boring had they not done the video camera and put in all this stuff with hidden eggs behind everything.
Uh-huh.
Because, so I go down there and I do it every time. I hit the little button and it says the president's getting ready to speak. And it films you. Have you seen that? And then it has a binder there of like famous presidential speeches, and I try and do all the voices of the presidents while on the video, and you get to watch yourself. If it didn't have that, I just think kids would be like, nah, and just walk out. You know? But the kids are all using it, pushing that button, doing that. So that's what I'm saying. If you want to, just you're already talking about it, you got to go above and beyond just this 50 state map. Like, honestly, do like a selfie with something in that state behind you. Like, hey, if you're going to travel here to Florida or the Grand Canyon, let's say the Grand Canyon, right? The Grand Canyon pops up, you get in there, and it takes a picture and stores it in there.
Yeah.
And you can see where everybody's visited and they've done all this stuff. It's
Yeah.
something like
That's a great idea.
mind blowing. You know?
Yeah.
Minnesota, you have to stand in front of the
Paul Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the Blue Ox Bay.
Yeah.
I think like a Snapchat. So I didn't know this, and one day I was just playing with it, and you can actually like see stories from like other countries.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Maybe something like, like they were saying, go to film it.
I would start by like mapping out some user scenarios, like, and just drawing, okay, you come up to it and you want to learn more about, or, this person is just starts pressing at it, pressing a state, what's going to happen? Or like, you know what I mean? What are all the things that you need to kind of wrap your head around, all of the things that it's going to do? And how is the user going to know how to respond to it? Is it going to be 2 screens? Or one, something like that. All right, Miss Jaleesa, what's your idea?
Well, I was thinking either that the Chinese can tell you and why everyone has to go up there.
That's a potential.
And then what happens is either I was thinking like while I'm in this space or I'll do it. There's realizing
It's probably not realistic to have bucket people in, but having that room could be really neat. So it would be like, NASA has done some filming of some, real actual stuff that's pretty awesome. But it's like, I'm not sure, other than showing, what the landscape of the planet is, I'm not sure what else they would do.
Well, I think it kind of is reminding me of, there's like a ride in Disney World where you have you ever done that? Or you go into space and it's like you experience gravity and the whole thing shakes like crazy, and it's kind of intense. It's pretty.
Well, if you had a mini Omni theater,
yeah, I think
that'd be really
well.
cool.
Also, I don't think a museum is going to invest in multiple screens for an experience that's going to entertain one kid. So it has to be as.
Would you want them to stay for the whole presentation, or could people come and go as they wish?
I think I have a vision in my head of what this is going to look like. I think it could work. I don't think you can trap people in there, but I do think you could give them, you know, that happens all the time in museums where you come up to a display and somebody's already playing a video or something like that, and you just kind of have to wait and experience the video until it's your turn and you can control the situation. So I would imagine, you know, people would walk in, maybe they're already on a journey to Mars, I don't know. And I think what would be educational is for people to get a sense for how long it would take to get there. Like, you know, if we're traveling to Mars, it would take years to get to. And so that kind of like the days on the ship, it would be like, what do you think, you know, it'd be moving so fast. And there might be an auditory experience, and there might be things on the way to Mars, you're going to pass this and this and this, and you see it in the screens. And so I think it's interactively not all that complex, but it could be interesting, the information that you show them and the way that you position it and the way that you invite people in. It could be sort of interesting, but I don't think it has a lot of interactive potential. You know what I mean? Somebody proposed this a couple years ago, or last year maybe, and it was like a whole, it relied very heavily on this physical, getting into the spaceship and all of that, and it was really like a one-person kind of deal, which in a way can work. You know, you sit down in the chair, but it would just be one screen in front of you. I don't know. Think about, I would do a little bit more research about what you see at other places. So the next time you guys propose this, it might be spend some time looking at comparable exhibits.
We have one at Science Center. What you're saying is at the Science Center. It's just not a spaceship you get inside. It's all the components that you're saying all spread out so everybody can do them. And one of the components is we control the Mars rover, and you control it on one side of the Science Center and it drives the other side of the Science Center. Like 10-minute walk away, you control it. Okay. So it's all a big giant room of all of this thing that you're saying, just broken into little, hey, fly the moon, hey, drive the Mars rover, hey, put this together in this little package piece, right? You can fly the spaceship. I'm not saying your idea is, it's not your exact idea, but I'm saying it is.
Yes, so try to, next time you present, have some drawings or some kind of an illustration to kind of communicate what it is you have in mind, and have a couple of examples of like, well, they have something like this here. I'm kind of thinking like this, but it would be different because of like this. You know, if you're going to be selling this to a client, they're going to want to see, well, what do other museums do? You know, and you don't want to come up like flat-footed, like I have no idea. I've never looked at any other museums. You know, you want to give them a point of reference. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Draw it out or visualize it in some way so we can see what's in your head. Alex, do you have anything? Okay. So here's what the plan is. What I'll do is on Thursday, anybody that wants to jump in and present, it'll just be remote. You're welcome to do that. And then whenever we're done with that, then if it means, well, I don't really want to talk to myself. But maybe I will. I'll record, I'll go through my presentation and show you some of the examples that I collected on my epic journey to children's museums around the Midwest. So I'll share that with you guys. But next two sessions, Thursday, Tuesday, remote only, okay? And I'll let you know about the Media Academy stuff. And I will actually grade the projects. What do you think about that? Yeah, Allie? It's very open. It's going to be one big PDF. So eventually you're going to have to get it into InDesign. But the pieces, depending on how you're going to communicate things, like there might be things that are more diagrammatic that would be easier to do in Illustrator. By all means, do that part in Illustrator. For screen mock-ups, or like if you're trying to take a picture and then superimpose things, that lends itself a lot more to Photoshop. So there'll probably be components that they might be done in one or the other places, but the whole final package is going to be a PDF document.
But this would be, if you were writing this as a proposal for like a children's museum, this would be like our last assignment where we write it up as ourselves, as a company making it for a website. We would, your example basically showed, that dinosaur example, that showed the whole packet looking like it's a whole packet. Is that
Right, because he was pitching it as a piece to a museum.
Right, so we're pitching it as a piece, so it's not going to have our logo, our stuff on it, really.
Well, it could be. I mean, you might have you're the company proposing it.
But
it
not
was just
as much as like a website.
I don't think it would be that. I mean, it's still your own coming from you. I think it was just his style of presenting it. He didn't. You guys seem to be a little bit more attuned to, having your branding on top and stuff like that, and he didn't really do that in his template.
Okay.
Also, back then, I didn't emphasize as much. You create the shell in InDesign. And until I taught this once or twice, and I got these Frankenstein PDF files that were all different pieces from different components. So now I'm saying, okay, make a nice little InDesign template, and I think that's why this class is having more branded, but you are the company proposing this piece for a museum. Does that make sense? I mean, I guess if you really wanted to,